Back to the vlog. Super excited to have you here. We have a bunch of new followers. Thank you guys for following. Lots of really great conversations that we're going to have in the coming weeks and months. And I wanted to start with failure. Mostly because when we were going through the rebrand for my website and all the things, it came up that failure is something that I like to talk about in a lot of my talks and a lot of my work and that kind of stuff. And I think that when you talk about it, it becomes less of a stigma. And there is a stigma around the word failure. There's a stigma that we have been conditioned to believe that failure is a terrible thing. And while, it's not easy and it doesn't feel good and, we don't necessarily feel great around it, there are different ways to view it and use it and learn from it every single time, no matter, what your situation is and what you're failing, right? We've all failed tests. We've all failed at life experiences. We've failed in relationships. None of us is immune to failure, which I think is also something that we, obsess about, right? We look at people that we might consider a mentor or that we respect and admire, or situations that, have happened. And we're like, I wouldn't do that, or I would do that. And these people never make missteps or mistakes. And those are the people who are as successful as they are because they're willing to fail. We start from a very early age believing that failure is wrong and we shouldn't do it, and we should try as hard as we can so we don't make any mistakes. And when we do that, when we're forced to realize that or think that way, it limits our imaginations, it limits our creativity, it limits our belief system in what we know we can accomplish with a little bit of education, with a lot of support, with the tools that we need to be able to continue on whatever the journey is that we're on. 8 years ago, I left my corporate job and started my own business coaching. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done. Still hard, right? There's constantly moving and changing and pivoting and growing and learning. And I have failed about a gazillion times. I failed a gazillion times a day, right? At maybe not getting to all the things on my to-do list, or not being able to show up for this, or having to say no to something else, or, saying something or doing something that didn't resonate with an audience, or whatever it is, right? If I stopped doing all those things, if I didn't keep going, if I didn't continue to push through and move through that, I often wonder where that would have led me. Would I be back in a corporate job, unhappy? Would I, have put myself in different positions, maybe more questionable positions? Who knows, right? But what I've come to realize through life experience and through experiences and stories and life experiences of other people is that every single one of us fails more than we succeed quite often. And so we have to give ourselves that grace to be able to understand that this is part of life. Failure is part of life. It is a stepping stone to not wanting to ever make that mistake again, or a learning experience that is going to cause us to go in a different direction, or reevaluate a situation or a relationship and how we plan to respond to that rather than react to it. Failure is a gift, quite honestly. But we have to be able to give ourselves permission. Hello, permission granter right here. You have to be able to give yourself permission to feel that failure and not feel like I'm the worst at this, and imposter syndrome and self-deprecating thoughts and all that stuff, which that's hard to block out, especially if you're not feeling your best and all the things. So thinking about how you have handled failure, your own personal failure in the past, and how you're going to maybe switch it up in the future or teach people about it, right? If you're a parent, I will never forget the first time that I had to talk about failure with one of my kids. It was not an easy conversation. He was really upset. He failed a pop quiz when he was in 6th grade. He got a 45 on it, and he didn't know how to tell us. And he was in bed at night, and he was crying, and I thought he was hurt. I thought he was sick. I thought something was wrong. I thought something actually was wrong. And when we had the conversation, he said, I don't want to tell you, you're going to be really mad at me and disappointed in me. And I was like, did you punch somebody in the face? Did you get into a fight? Did you say something you shouldn't have said? Were you unkind? Like, those are the things that go through my head. Not did you fail a test? And he was like, well, I had my first pop quiz ever today and in math, and I failed it. I got a 45. And I kind of stopped and said, okay, we're going to have a conversation about failure. And that failing a pop quiz in 6th grade as a 10-year-old, in the grand scheme of things, means absolutely nothing. And so we went on to have that conversation, and how trying your best is the most important thing. And even if you don't do well after you've tried your best, he's like, Mom, I didn't even know any of the things. And I said, here's what. You just started middle school. Your teacher probably passed out a piece of paper to kind of gauge who understood what was on the paper. He's like, nobody passed the test. Great. So now that teacher knows that this is where they have to start. You didn't fail. You helped that teacher. Reframing a situation. We're going to talk about that in another video. But that helped him understand the value of failing. You're not going to win every game. You're not going to pass every test. You're definitely not going to get 100 on every test, right? I gave him permission to give himself permission, to give himself grace and really understand what it meant to fail. It means to learn. It means to grow. It means to change. It means to pivot or redirect or make a different decision. It doesn't mean that you're terrible or that you're the worst at something or that you're never going to be successful in your life. Reach out to your mentor if you have one, or anybody who you admire. Do some research on them and just type in so-and-so failure, or ask them if there's somebody in your inner circle. How do you deal with failure? How do you use it as a tool for your success? I'd be interested to know what their answers are. So if you get that research and do it, put it in the comments on this video, because I think it's an important thing to share. Share with me a failure that you had, that you learned from, that you appreciate. Because at the end of the day, we have to appreciate all of our experiences, including the failures. You guys have a great day, and I will see you back here really, really soon. Thanks for watching.